always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to what can be seen in an old photograph. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Author Wolf von Eckhart in Time magazine wrote, "Some of a city's diversity, historic continuity, and character is destroyed when old buildings are razed. The historic significance of architectural styles is as indisputable as the historic events surrounding them. After all, we do not throw out the wedding pictures of our parents because their dress now looks funny, or because the pictures are not quite so wonderful as we once thought they were." Wolf von Eckhart in Time magazine. This hour, a few old and new photographs of lovers and other strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Dido and Thank You and 10cc and I'm Not in Love. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I would imagine by now you've sent all your family photos from this past Thanksgiving to relatives and friends. My wife comes from a family that used to take photos of the dinner table at holiday times. My family never did this, and it is now at this time in my life that I wish they had. Lynn Bertrand, in Family Fun, wrote, "I once thought it odd my family insisted on taking a picture of the Thanksgiving table. As far as I could tell, ours looked almost like every other one in town, sagging under the weight of soon-to-be blessed turkey and surrounded by hungry relatives. Every year, one resolute family member, ignoring our pleas to let us start, would climb onto a chair with a camera. Thanks to these photos, I have a record of Thanksgivings past and an understanding of why we continue the tradition. We get dressed up. We haul out the china. We light the candles. It's our family at its best." Lynn Bertrand in Family Fun. I'm Don Jackson from iTunes and CHFI.com. There were a few photos around the bed of the elderly woman in the film Titanic. Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, and Amanda Marshall, and Marry Me. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This is an excerpt from the '03 edition of the Friendship Book of Francis Gay, published by D.C. Thompson and Company. Gay writes, and I quote, "When you think of the many inventions which have transformed our lives, the camera quickly comes to mind. The very first camera was a little cardboard box with a small hole pierced through the side and specially treated paper inserted inside. It was discovered that when the box was positioned with the hole facing an object, in time the light projecting through the hole would create an image on the paper. From those humble beginnings, the camera as we know it today was created. And what pleasure it has given all of us. We can effortlessly capture important events like holidays, birthdays, and anniversaries. Photographs will always be a special moment in time, captured forever. Just think, modern photography began with a humble little cardboard box all those years ago. and consider what digital photography has allowed us to do today. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and chfi.com. David Gray in Babylon, Burton Cummings in Dream, and David Cook in The Time of My Life. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and chfi.com. Russell Baker in the New York Times wrote, "There's so much spectating going on that a lot of us never get around to living. Life is always walking up to us and saying, 'Come on in, the living's fine.' And what do? Back off and take its picture." There might be a problem with all these people busily taking photos with video cameras, digital cameras, and cell phones. Don Aslett in Clutter's Last Stand, published by Writer's Digest Books, said, "Experiences shouldn't be pre-recorded to be aired later in life. I've watched people at a nature reserve so bent on collecting records to enjoy later that they missed the beauty of the park. They were so busy shooting pictures, buying souvenirs, T-shirts, and maps that they never took a minute to stand and soak in that spectacular place. We can't pre-record our life to replay, because at the replay, we're only spectators. The joy comes from the participation. Preoccupation with preservation doesn't heighten an experience. It diminishes it." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and chfi.com. Michael Bublé, Everything, and Jordan Sparks and Tattoo. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and chfi.com. David Owen, sometime back in the Atlantic Monthly, wrote, "The popularity of video cameras arises from a simple misunderstanding. Somehow people have the idea that they won't mind being old if they can turn on the TV and see what they were like when they were young. This is not true. The best memories are ones that have been allowed to evolve unhindered by documentary proof. I often cheer myself up by thinking back on my days as a football star. These recollections would be less thrilling if they were accompanied by a video showing that I weighed 80 pounds and spent most of my time on the bench.
Yellow 19, 1-3, ready, set,
Memory is better than video because it's free and doesn't work very well. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and chfi.com. Daniel Powder at the End of a Bad Day and James Blunt and You're Beautiful. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and chfi.com. Diane Ackerman in A Slender Thread, published by Random House, wrote, "As anyone setting out on a walk knows, it's hard to empty your mind of worry, analyzing, and hurting. Your agitations travel with you, and you rehearse dreaded or hoped-for conversations. But if you can, Give yourself a mental vacation. Leave home all the worries, hurts, and misgivings. Then you can set off to enjoy the sensations of being alive. The beauty of light, the bird calls, the wind and sun on your face. Freed from the commotions of your mind, you can allow yourself to be the photographic plate on which the world etches itself. Unquote. And no amount of digital wizardry can duplicate that. Lovers and other strangers. From iTunes and chfi.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.